This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 114. The top 3 things home sellers really want. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your life or your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well, hey, you're definitely in the right place because I'm you. By the way, I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in a much better direction, if you're brand new or you want to redirect yourself in a more strategic direction, we've created this free Jumpstart course for you. It's sitting there waiting for you at freeagentgift.com. Please humor me. Go get this. I know if you're listening for the first time, you're saying, who is this guy? Well, this guy happens to be 21 years deep into this, 15 years deep into coaching, thousands of tipping points. But more importantly, I am the crash test dummy. I have run into the wall many times, and I've made course corrections. And what I've done is simplify the solutions for you. And that's why I do this podcast, because I'm simplifying things for you, okay? So freeagentgift.com, get over there and get your copy and the digital course you can take for free, okay? All right, so the top 3 things home sellers really want, right? So is this the holy grail of getting listings? Maybe, but I always go a little bit more strategically and a little bit deeper. And remember, if you're listening to this for the first time again, I would tell you that these ideas are coming from me actually doing this. In fact, as I sit here today, I just finished one deal at a pretty big number that nobody else could solve until I took over the expired listing and, had to grind away to get the deal done. So I deal with difficult sellers all the time. And when I say difficult, I don't necessarily mean that personality-wise, they're difficult all the time, but this is a huge financial and emotional transaction for people. The number one fear that I believe most home sellers have is being taken advantage of, meaning somebody rushes them just to get the commission, quote unquote. So that's in the back of everybody's mind. So we really do need to understand what are some of the most important things to them. Not this perception from some guru that jumps up on a stage and makes it up and doesn't do it every day, but more so from a mastermind body of work where over the years I know from firsthand experience, and all the top producers that I have the blessing of coaching, they bubble up these anecdotes and we like really grind through it together. And all of a sudden you begin to see these patterns. And these patterns are relatively simple, and the concepts are simple, but they're very important. And sometimes it has to go beyond the tactical. Right? So let me deal with this. And it's going to be interesting because there were a lot of things I could have written down here because of all those micro things I know that sellers want, that you know that sellers want. But it's about putting it in an order and watch it evolve so that there is a successful sale. So the first point here is they want to know about how you'll market their home. I mean, I say that almost with a laugh because it's almost like I always envision this bobblehead doll that, spits out an answer if you just smack it on the head. And it's how are you going to market my home? How are you going to market my home? How are you going to market my home? It's probably the number one question that sellers have asked me and all of my students over the years, that you just hear it out there regularly. And so we have to deal with it. And the most difficult part is that I sit here teaching you knowing that they need so much more than that. But this is about what they want. And there's a difference. You can't just get knowledgeable about how the process really works and say, you need a plan. I mean, it's tough for me to say it at the intro to this podcast every time. You need a plan. And I want to give you a wireframe for one. I mean, you can take it deeper into your own world, but you need a wireframe. But I mean, I guess in this intimate setting, if you're listening to my podcast, I can go there with you. But boy, try to tell that to a top producer. You need a plan. That's why your business has holes all over it. That's why you're struggling. That's why you're stuck at the same level. So it's no different with a home seller. But we have to relax a little bit once we've identified that home seller and trying to figure out what they want and give it to them. Don't fight it. And for years I did. I mean, I work so hard to be educated on any professional endeavor I get into. I mean, I am a curious kid. I just like to get after trying to solve things, figure out how they really work. And so, you get down under that hood like a technician and you're looking at all the parts and you come up and say, oh, you need this. And somebody just kind of shakes their head at you. And no, listen to me. You need this. And next thing you know, you don't get the listing and you're wondering why not. You can't just come through the door and I mean, think about it in a relationship, right? You walk through the door, you need me. Right? Listen, you need me. You need what I'm going to bring into your life. You'd never do it in that context, so why would we do it in a professional context? Let's figure out what they want and give them knowledge about that. So again, how will you market my home? Now, here's why this becomes a difficult subject, and I'm going to warn all of you that have joined a big brand especially, that start to go off on the brand and what the brand is and what the brand's going to do. I know you've been sold by the brand yourself to talk about that. And to some extent, I suppose it could help, but really, what does that brand have to do with getting a home exposed from a marketing standpoint? So all of you, especially you smaller business people, maybe you have your own brokerage and you keep going up against Goliath, the brand, and you keep losing to Goliath, the brand, because you don't know how to answer, how will you market my home? Right? Because the benchmark often for the seller is their perception is, I drive down my street for the last 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years and I decided to sell one day. Who do I remember seeing their signs? Have I seen any marketing, any postcards? So it's marketing itself that typically affects why they ask that question. Why? Because we want based on our perceptions. I want to know, are you going to market it like her? I see her postcards all the time. Are you going to market it like him? I see his signs all the time. Are you going to market it like them? I see their beautiful website online. See, all that marketing that we see and we're subjected to, especially now in the digital age, that conditions our brain as home sellers to simply ask, I seem to see marketing everywhere, so my perception is that's the one major thing that is going to sell my house. So how will you do that? So I can answer that for them because I went into it. Now, in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, well, you really need a full plan to sell a house. It's not just about marketing. I mean, let's talk about pricing it right first. In determining that, let's talk about how you move up the price by reconditioning your property. Let's talk about how we put the sizzle on the steak with the staging, and then we can get into marketing. I'm thinking that. But I'm going to have to sometimes just give them what they want, which is that micro answer, which in my plan is really the fourth step. I don't want to talk about marketing first without having that other context, because quite frankly, think about this. I know in my mind's eye, and so do you if you have any experience in this business, price something wrong. I don't care how good the marketing is. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. This is a pricing mechanism. It's the same thing that happens in the stock market, but that's what they need. What they want is the answer to the question. So I got better prepared to do it. And I said to myself, okay, well, let's simplify marketing to sell a house. What is the marketing that sells a house? How do I get that product, albeit now it's all digitized with digital photography, floor plans that are digitized, drone photos, and on it goes, right? You know. So all of that stuff is the tactical stuff of marketing. So really you have that first phase of marketing starts with digitizing or memorializing the home in a digital way. Now, do you see why in the back of my mind I'm thinking, well, we didn't even talk about conditioning and staging to get it ready to be captured and memorialized. But I'll explain to them, look, the very first beat of marketing that I'm going to take you through, and by the way, this is universal. It's not like it's unique to me. It's just the way that you explain this matters. And that's the other thing. Like, think about this. I'll get into this in a second. Well, I'll hold off actually, because it is one of the points of what they want. And that starts to become about you. But right now it's how will you market my home? Well, first what I'll do is I'll prepare it properly so that one moment in time when the professional photographer comes over and memorializes it and digitizes it with pictures, that's a critical key moment in time for marketing. We have one shot to get that right. I'm not saying we can't come back and take those pictures, but in my world, I've told my team, look at the forecast. Don't bring our photographer out here until we have the best blue sky day that's possible. And if we have to delay it a little bit, so what? We just signed a contract for, say, 6 months. I mean, what's the hurry? Let's get it in the best light that we can. And because not only do we want think about it, the staging of nature. And if you can get it in a season, or if they have pro-level pictures that they had in the season, you're trying to do it in the winter, all that is the first step. Okay? So you have to get that all ready, has to come back from the photographer. We get rid of the ones we like, we don't. We order them the way that they tell the story. That's marketing step number 1. And by the way, I'm sitting here doing this podcasting, mind blown that an expired listing that I went in and put under agreement in a week, which is not really typical here. In a week, when I looked at the basics of marketing, meaning I looked at the past MLS sheet, the main photo, which was supposed to be displayed horizontally, was displayed vertically, and all the pictures were taken like that. Mind blown. I couldn't even fathom that even if you are just going to do it with your phone or your iPad, I've heard that before too. I just can't even believe that you don't get it yet. It's pro-level photography. I get if your budget is tight or whatever it might be, try to cut a deal with a photographer, an up-and-comer. Try to get some kid who's in the photography program at the local community college to do it for less money. But get the best digitized, optimized pictures that you can on the best day that you can. That's marketing 101. So you hit them with that. The next thing you say is, look, the way that marketing works in the multiple listing service, and here's a case for realtors in general, we are members of a marketplace. Why in the world wouldn't we want to take your property and put it into that marketplace and let the digital age do the number one marketing thing that we all need, and that's syndication to the internet? Meaning what? That every single website that wants to come down and play the game buys access to the multiple listing services around the world, right? And it goes down, scoops it, and populates the property on a website. So now everybody can see it. So if you're marketing a property and you don't want to go on MLS, well, you just took a major arrow out of the quiver of marketing a property to sell. It's insanity. And I hear it every week. Well, I don't believe in the MLS. Well, great. But you just killed the marketing. You want to know how to market it, but yet you don't want to put it on the MLS? Where syndication marketing happens? So we've digitized it. Now it has to be syndicated, and out it goes. You see where I'm going? I'm beginning to explain to them what they want to know. How will I market it? How about just being conscious and cognizant of how marketing a house really works? Now I get into the whole diatribe about push marketing. So now once it goes out there, awesome. It looks great. It's the best we can do. I don't know if somebody has a lousy website, but we're not going to hold it back from anybody populating it on their site. Let the whole world have at it. We're trying to make a market for your property. So marketing it to everybody gives me a better chance of getting more people who are interested to come to me so I can make that market and have that conversation. Now, the last piece is of marketing, I call it push marketing. In other words, I'm going to also take that package. I'm going to put it on my website. I'm going to spend some money to push it around, whether it be Facebook marketing, Google marketing, open house marketing, which combines digital and syndication. Do you know every time that you do an open house, it's a piece of new content that gets syndicated out to the internet? That's marketing. See, this is very straightforward. And yet most realtors don't even know how to explain it to somebody. So how are you answering the question? And so now you get into push marketing where you're doing these open houses and you're pushing it around and in the basics of the signage. And you're showing up and you're verbally marketing about the house. I mean, if you have a co-broke come, which is in my marketplace, 88% of the time, you are going to sell it with another brokerage and another agent. 88% of the time. 12% of the time, maybe it's you double-ending it, but about 12% of the time, it's the agency double-ending it. That's not much. 88% versus 12%. So you want to be there, and you want to also understand that maybe you want to telemarket to a couple of top producers that you know in that area, tell them a little bit about it, get their opinion, and try to do that kind of marketing. See, this is all very basic stuff, but if you don't have a marketing plan, you don't know this. So you can't answer the question. The next point here is, Now, because you answered their question, they begin to lean in a little bit more, and they want the next thing. They want to understand how you give them the best chance to win. So I can meld this a little bit with this marketing thing, because their perception might be, well, this company has 400 agents and they're going to, yes, I just told you 12% of the time, even though they're that big, is all they can really do in-house. So even though your perception is somebody said that to you, well, we're big and we market it internally. So what? If that's all they did, it's a failure, because the majority of the time is still broker to broker. You see what I'm saying, folks? There's a reality to this. And so now as I explain this to you on a teaching podcast for real estate agents, I bet you lean in and say, huh? What do you think they're doing? Whoa, wait a minute. Explain that to me again. Now they came in asking for something they wanted to know. And now you're showing true professionalism, true expertise based on the facts of the way the thing really works. Not like, oh, well, our brand is going to bring international buyers on these planes. For what? What? Show me a list of all those international amazing buyers with big buckets of money that bought houses from you over the last year. The truth is, that's not how it works. I mean, I'm talking about my own marketplace, right? I know that it's pretty regional. Most of the people that are going to come and buy out Cape Cod or Boston are relatively regional. Unless, of course, maybe it's downtown Boston and somebody's buying, a property for their child who's coming from overseas. That's a little bit different. But in my experience, it's much more regional, local regional. So all this hocus pocus that people say, well, we're going to do this at this big brand. And I'm not trying to pick on you big branders, but stop saying that. Sure, there's some delicious brands out there. If I were going to a big company, there are a couple I really like myself, but they don't market a house. That brand, what does that do? Maybe it helps you get in the door, but it doesn't help you market their home. Answer their question. So now they're looking at you going, okay, tell me how you give me the best chance to win then, now that you've made the case for that. Well, now this is where you begin to articulate a plan. See, the irony in this whole thing is this is what they want, but by giving them that answer based on their perceptions first and then getting into how you are going to do it, now you're almost giving them what they need, but you're answering it in their way. They now want to know about you because you were intelligent enough to answer. We'll say, look, one of the things I want to tell you about is you asked me about marketing, and I appreciate that, and I gave you as thorough an answer I could. But I want you to realize that I have a complete plan that has 7 major steps. We didn't even talk about the first 3 that get me to marketing. So the way that I'm going to help you win is that I am following a proven step-by-step plan that you can travel along with me here. You can know where we're at, and most of my competitors are afraid to go right after talking about price. I'm not. If we put the wrong price on your property for this market based on its features and benefits, it doesn't matter how good the marketing is. All that stuff I just explained to you becomes a moot point. It's irrelevant. It's not going to work at all. So we need to go back and talk about pricing, talk about how you can improve your pricing if you're willing to do some reconditioning, or at least we can price out some big items, move some furniture around, get rid of some stuff, bring in a pro if we need to, and then go into everything I just said. Now, we keep going beyond that. If everything that we just did, all those 4 steps works, now we're into this communicative stage, which I like to call making a market for it. That's actually the question. If you knew what you know right now, you'd be asking me, how are you going to make a market for my property? How are you going to solve the buyer problems? What kind of a plan are we following here? See, this is pretty cool the way that this works if you understand what they want. They want these big beats. And again, this is based on my very real experience. Now, let's just presume they say, okay, wow, you have a plan. I get it. You really know your stuff. And I hear this all the time. And I get it also, by the way. I've been doing it for a long time. I teach, I podcast, I've done TV. I can talk about it relatively easily. It's my fabric. So the question is, okay, can I teach this to a brand new agent? Absolutely yes. It happens every day at my brokerage. It happens every day in my coaching program where my mastermind members bring on their brand new team members, and we just go through this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In fact, we have a program just for that called Campfire, where we just repeat over and over the buyer course, the seller course, also known as the buyer plan, the seller plan, because those are the fundamentals, and your ability to express that to somebody is an expression of how you will take them through the process. And so I'm not saying that resume and testimonials and who you work for as a brokerage doesn't matter, but it's only the supporting cast. They need to know that you are a guide with a plan that helps them win. I mean, that's the story brand formula. That's what it is. Enters the hero, them, the home seller. They have a problem. I don't really know how home selling works, but I have some perceptions. 2, enters you, the guide, with what? A plan that gets them through the challenge of trying to sell this thing, making the adjustments along the way so that they can win. You see, the question is, and this is whether or not they ask it explicitly. They don't say, how are you going to help me win? They sort of lead into it. Now, the last point is this. Let's just presume that all works. And they say, okay, I'm going to take a chance on you, because that's all they're doing when they give you the listing. Now, the last thing that they really want to see is pretty simple. They want to see your effort. Don't dare go through all this preparation and then not have a plan to really get out there and do things. Today, I was all over the place before the recording of this because the weekends, this is a Saturday while I'm recording this, and I can get stuff done. And so I have a brand new client who's an architect, builder, energy efficient builder, great guy, and his wife, great gal, and they have a spot and they want to see effort. So I said, give me 90 minutes in that house. Let me fish off the dock. Let me get that piece of open house syndication out there. Let me show effort. And we sat there, and a young couple came in. Other than that, it was pretty quiet, but we got the traffic going, and they appreciate that effort. I'm the owner of the company. I'm a busy guy, but I have such a clear plan. I want to demonstrate. I told you I'd be here. Here I am. Well, how do you do it? Because I'm leveraged, because I'm following a plan. So the times I have to work in my business versus on it, I have focused time with you. Easy. So let me go back and say the top 3 things home sellers really want. 1, they want to know about how you will market their home. Have an answer for them. 2, they begin to lean in and they want to understand in that case, how will you give them the best chance to win versus all the other options? Have an answer for that. More importantly, have a plan for that. And lastly, when you get it and you want to get this thing sold, they need to see your effort, especially if you're in a tough market and you're going to have to make price adjustments. You're going to have tough negotiations. You're going to have to go through all that. If you show the effort, they're more likely to listen to you. All right, let me summarize it this way. While there are many things that a home seller perceives or expects a listing agent to do, it really comes down to them needing to know that you give them the best chance to win and back up your promises with a yeoman's effort. All right, now remember, you can take immediate action to get going in this strategic direction that we're talking about here, because we give you a free, simple business plan layout. It's waiting for you at freeagentgift.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever. We try to put it everywhere to keep up. We also broadcast our live sales training calls on Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 1 EDT. I'm always messing with live technology to try to get it out on more platforms. I think I'm even closer to going to another level. So remember, turn on those page and channel notifications for the Realty Classroom, and you won't miss the reminders. We'd also appreciate it if you would comment on our post. Please comment on our post so we know what you're thinking about. And if you tell us what you want, I'll give you some answers right here. Sometimes it's tough to talk at you and just kind of guess because you're quiet. If you speak up, this podcast will become more and more about you. Hey, thanks for listening. And remember this, nobody's coming for you. So go get to work on your own business, and I will see you in the next episode.